Okay, so here I am in STATA, and you can see that my working directory is shalliday dropbox simondhalliday.github.io. That's just my website's default name. Now, what I want to do here within STATA is I'm going to click on File, and then I'm going to click on Import, and I'm going to click on Text Data Delimited CSV. And then over here, what I need to do is I need to click on Browse. So with this, it notices the folder that I've opened up quite often. Here's my data folder, and the file that I want to import is CPS underscore 0004.csv. I click on open for that file. Now notice here, I want to make sure that the first row is used as a variable name. So I'm going to click on here and make sure that it says always for the variable names, but I'm going to leave everything else as it's done here. And then I'm going to click OK. So for a little while, what you'll see here is it's just going to be processing. It's going to be going. The CSV file is probably somewhere between 100 and 200 megabytes, so that's a bigger CSV file than the ones that we've typically dealt with so far in this course. And so it's going to take a little while to open that CSV file. Notice that if you have a much bigger CSV file, it'll take a lot longer to load it. Now notice here we've basically got a whole bunch of the variables that we wanted. I've got this information about the years, from the demographics. I've got the poverty calculations, and then I have also this stuff to do with school lunches and other things that I had asked for when I was looking for these data. Okay, now the things that we're interested in are education and official poverty. So let's just start by saying codebook and those variables. Remember, codebook tells us a little bit about those variables. So notice here we have a few unique values of OFPOV, official poverty, and we have a variety of different unique values for education. Now, one thing that's important for us to know is that if we want to check out what the different values mean, we can go back to our CPS data and use the codebook and make sure that you can just Control F or Command F for the specific variable that you want to look at, and you can then see what the different labels mean. You can then create labels for the data to make sure you understand what they are. So, I've looked at these two things, educ and OFPOV. And now what I can also do is I can go up, and I can change this, and I can say tab educ OFPOV. Now here, what do I have? I've got my rows, I've got education, the different categorizations of education, and OFPOV, official poverty. So 1 is if you're below the poverty line, 2 is if you're above the poverty line, and 1 through 125 are the different categorizations of the levels of education. Again, we check the code book to make sure that we understand what those meant. So we can see here that we've got variation in the number of people falling below the poverty line and people who are above the poverty line. So we basically have some stuff that we're interested in using. Now, moreover, what's something that's interesting for us to think about? We've got the different years here. So I've got 2015, 2016, and 2017. I checked that by going tab year. Now, what we could probably then do is basically just do these different tables by our different years if we want to compare official poverty and education as two things across the different periods. Now, we could be doing this for a longer period, but then we're going to have a much bigger data set, and that's maybe going to become harder to handle. But for the moment, you can see here we've got a large sample size here. And you can also see from when we looked at these variables over here, if I remember correctly, this is corresponding to a large population of people who didn't answer the question, a large sample of people who didn't answer the question, sorry. And so we're probably going to be getting rid of about 125,000 observations there and paying attention rather to these people here. So we could be doing this and then graphing the data, trying to compare them. Maybe if we needed to go back and revise our data, we could get some additional variables. But for the moment, this is exactly what we want to look for. Now, if I were doing more work with data on education myself, I would probably be recategorizing this as education in years, like I had showed you for the other data that we've looked at previously. And with official poverty, this 1, 2, I would probably recode it as a 0, 1 or dummy variable, because we're trying to understand For example, how to predict whether someone falls above or below the poverty line. Those are things that we would do in our processing.do file in order to analyze our data at a later point.